Stop settling for a life of shoulds while the rest of the world is taking what they must have. Most people are sleepwalking through their potential, waiting for a lucky break that's never coming. But high performance isn't a gift, it's a standard. Today, we stop playing small, we stop making excuses, and we demand the breakthrough you were born to achieve. At the very heart of extraordinary achievement lies a psychological boundary that separates the dreamers from the doers, the shift from a should to a must. This is the essence of radical self-standards. Most people operate within a framework of preferences. They have a long list of things they believe they should do. They should earn more, they should get in shape, they should be more present. But because these are shoulds, they are negotiated away the moment life gets difficult, the moment the weather turns bad, the moment the weather turns bad, or the moment they feel a spark of fatigue. High performers do not live in this world of convenience. For them, a standard is not a goal, it is an identity. When you raise your standards, you're making a definitive declaration about who you are and what you will no longer tolerate in your life. It is the moment you decide that good enough is actually an insult to your potential. This psychological shift works because your brain is hardwired to remain consistent with who you believe you are. If your standard is to be a leader, you don't have to think about being courageous, you simply act, because that is what a leader does. High performers understand that your floor, the lowest level of performance you are willing to accept, is far more important than your ceiling. Most people focus on their peaks, but elites focus on their peaks, but elites focus on their base. They raise their base level of operations so high that even on their worst day, they are still outperforming the best days of the average person. This isn't about perfectionism, which is often just a fancy word for procrastination. It's about a relentless commitment to a higher grade of existence. When you embody radical self-standards, you stop looking for outside validation and start answering to an internal judge that is far more demanding. You realize that your life is a direct reflection of the standards you hold for yourself in private. It's the extra hour of study when no one is watching. It's the choice to hold your tongue and listen when your ego wants to scream. It's the refusal to cut corners even when it would be easy. This internal shift changes your physiology. It changes the way you walk into a room and the way you handle pressure. You no longer hope things will go well. You demand they go well because you have done the work to ensure it. You become the master of your environment because you have first become the master of your own expectations. Gemini said the second pillar of the high performer's secret is the absolute unconditional mastery over their internal state. Most people believe that their emotions are a reaction to what happens to them. If the market drops, they feel stressed. If someone cuts them off in traffic, they feel angry. If they get a compliment, they feel confident. They feel confident. But high performers understand a fundamental truth. Your state is not a result of your environment. It is a tool you use to shape your environment. Excellence is not a skill. It is a state of being. You cannot produce a world-class result from a low-energy, hesitant, or fearful state of mind. It is physiologically impossible to be a creative genius while you are slumped in your chair, breathing shallowly, and focusing on everything that could go wrong. High performance requires you to take radical responsibility for the internal weather of your mind and body every single second of the day. This mastery comes down to three specific forces that control your state in any given moment. The first is your physiology. You can change how you feel in a heartbeat simply by changing how you move. High performers don't wait to feel like working out or feel like making that difficult sales call. They snap their bodies into a state of peak intensity. They stand taller, they breathe deeper, and they move with a sense of certainty that commands their nervous system to wake up. The second force is your focus. Whatever you focus on, you will feel. If you focus on your past failures, you will feel defeated. If you focus on the magnitude of the challenge, you will feel overwhelmed. But if you focus on the solution, the mission, and the lives you are going to impact, you feel an immediate surge of power. The third force is the language you use. The labels you put on your experience define your experience. A high performer doesn't say they are devastated by a setback. They say they are challenged or learning. They use words that empower rather than words that destroy. By managing these three forces, you create a psychological fortress. You become the person who can walk into a room of chaos and bring peace, or walk into a room of apathy and bring fire. You don't leave your success to chance or to the whims of your mood. You realize that moods are for amateurs. Professionals operate from a state of conscious design. When you master your state, you close the gap between what you know you should do and what you actually do, because you have the emotional fuel to execute. You become a force of nature that doesn't just react to the world, but compels the world to react to you. Gemini said the third pillar that separates the elite from the masses is the absolute, uncompromising commitment to decisive action over mere motion. Most people in this world are addicted to the delusion of business. They spend their days answering emails, sitting in meetings, shuffling papers, and telling themselves they are working hard because they feel exhausted at the end of the day. But exhausted is not a trophy of success. It is often a symptom of inefficiency. High performers understand a fundamental law of the universe. There is a massive yawning canyon between movement and achievement. You can run on a treadmill for 4 hours and be dripping with sweat, but you haven't actually gone anywhere. Decisive action is about moving the needle. It is about identifying the 2 or 3 lead dominoes in your life. Those specific high leverage activities that, when knocked down, make everything else easier or unnecessary. While the average person is busy getting ready to get ready, the high performer is already in the arena, failing fast, learning faster, and adjusting their course in real time. This distinction is rooted in the psychological courage to face uncertainty. Most people use research or planning as a sophisticated form of procrastination. They stay in the planning phase because as long as they are planning, they cannot fail. But the high performer knows that clarity does not come from thought. Clarity comes from engagement. You don't think your way into a new way of acting, you act your way into a new way of thinking. The moment a high performer has a spark of insight or strategic breakthrough, they close the knowledge action gap immediately. They don't wait for the perfect moment because they know the perfect moment is a myth designed to keep people mediocre. They understand that a flawed plan executed with total obsession and massive intensity will beat a perfect plan that never leaves the drawing board every single time. Plus, by prioritizing decisive action, you stop being a consumer of information and start becoming a creator of results. You stop asking, what if, and start asking, what's next? This requires a ruthless pruning of your schedule. You have to be willing to say no to the good so you can say yes to the great. It means stopping the endless cycle of busy work that makes you feel productive, but leaves your bank account, your body, and your legacy exactly where they were a year ago. When you operate from this place of decisiveness, you develop a momentum that becomes unstoppable. You don't just do things, you produce outcomes. You become the person who finishes the race while everyone else is still arguing about the color of their shoes. The fourth and final pillar, the one that ignites every other principle and sustains the fire when the world tries to blow it out, is a relentless hunger. This isn't a simple desire or a polite wish for a better life. It is a primal spiritual craving for progress that defies logic. Most people work until they reach a certain level of comfort, a nice house, a stable income, a predictable routine, and then they subconsciously hit the cruise control button. They settle. They begin to protect what they have instead of reaching for what they could become. But the high performer understands that the moment you stop growing, you start dying. Hunger is the only differentiator that cannot be coached, bought, or faked. It is the refusal to be satisfied with yesterday's trophies. It is the drive that pushes a champion to train harder the day after they win the title than they did the day before. This hunger isn't born from a lack of gratitude. It is born from an abundance of vision. It is the realization that your potential is an infinite well, and to leave any of it untapped is a disservice to your creator and to the world. This relentless drive is fueled by a why that is bigger than your own comfort or your own ego. If your goals are only about you, your car, your house, your status, you will quit the moment things get painful. But when your hunger is tied to a mission, to your family, to a legacy, or to solving a problem for humanity, you find a reservoir of energy that the average person didn't even know existed. High performers are pulled by a future that is so bright and so compelling that it makes the pain of the present moment seem insignificant. They don't see obstacles as stop signs, they see them as weightlifting for the soul. They know that satisfaction is the enemy of greatness, while the rest of the world is looking for a reason to rest. The high performer is looking for a reason to reach. They are obsessed with the edge, that place where they are stretched to their absolute limit, because they know that growth only happens at the borders of discomfort. When you live with this kind of hunger, your life takes on a different cadence. You no longer need external motivation because you're driven by an internal obsession. You become the person who is still standing when everyone else has gone home. You become the person who finds a way when there is no way. This hunger creates a gravitational pull that draws opportunities, people, and resources towards you. It is the ultimate secret because it is the engine of persistence. Without hunger, standards will slip, states will crumble, and action will stall. But with it, you are a force that cannot be contained. You are no longer just a participant in the game of life, you are the one who dictates the terms of the victory.